Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Day number 224, October the 5th, right here at the 9 o'clock hour Eastern Standard Time, 6 o'clock out in California, 4 a.m. over in Ukraine. And I'm very thankful that you are here tonight. We're going to jump right in tonight on day 224 because there are so many things to cover. But the main topic and the main thing we're going to be looking at tonight is a little bit of map movement. But more importantly, tonight I'm going to help you understand the inside of Russia. I'm going to help you understand the mentality of Vladimir Putin. I'm going to assist you in understanding some of the way that people think and what is unfolding in this war right now. So thank you for being here. Thank you to our moderator, Jeffrey Burnett. Thank you for all of the community. We're working very hard, very close to getting the website updated so that we can have a one-stop shop to help everybody. So just give me a little bit more time on that, and we're going to be cooking. So thank you from wherever you're at tonight. Make sure in the chat you put your name, you put your city, you put your state, wherever it's from. Our friends in Ukraine watch this tomorrow, and they love to see hellos, as we always do. So blessings to you, and peace to Ukraine. Let's jump right to it tonight. I want to start by looking at the map tonight, and we're going to begin by just a quick evaluation. Two major places that were struck today, and that would mean within the last 24 hours, would be Zaporizhzhia and Odessa. You can see the two orange marks there on the map, and you guys know the location. The red line is showing the new approximate front line. And remember, that front line is always a gray line. Jania and I have taught you that because much of this war is fought through artillery and longer striking weapons. That doesn't mean that there is not gunfights and there is not close proximity battles going on. Of course there is, but a lot of these front lines are gray zones where there are both Russian and Ukrainian troops, but they are at distance, still called the front lines. But Ukraine making some great pushes again in the Kherson region, pushing down, really above Novokakhovka. That's where that blue line would be, and we know that's an important bridge there. It's also a very strategic place to the Russian military, as a lot of their warehouses and supply infrastructure and chains are there below Novokakhovka. Additionally, up in the north, again, Ukraine pushing and gaining ground in the Donetsk Oblast, pushing up actually toward the Lugansk Oblast. But this is a basic overview of what's happened today. And I want to now move to something we talked about last night, and that would be the Iranian drone attack. For sure, in Kyiv, in the Kyiv region, specifically in the city of Bielotserkva, which, remember, means white church. There was massive, actually today, a lot of video came out, a lot of footage. It was pretty intensive strikes by the Iranian kamikaze drones that took place in Bielotserkva. Now, these drones most likely came, with the information today, from the territory of Belarus. Now, remember, Belarus says, we're not in the war. In fact, it was Lukashenko just yesterday coming out with a video saying, we're not in the war. I'm sorry, sir, you are in the war. If drones are being fired from your sovereign territory, you're guilty. There is some thought that the drones could have come from the south. And yes, they can reach. They do have the range. In fact, I got some updated information because we really need to understand these Iranian drones. Specifically, these drones are much more powerful. They have much more range than most people probably think. So what do we know about the drones that made the attacks in the Kyiv region in Bielotserkva? The flight range of the Shahed 136 or I-36 is from 1,000 to 2,500 kilometers, with the possibility of a warhead weighing 50 kilograms. Let me put that in some language that maybe we can understand. 1,000 kilometers is 600 miles. 2,000 kilometers is 1,200 miles. 1,200 miles is wider than even the entire nation of Ukraine from east to west, and it also is a longer range than from north to south, meaning these Iranian drones can touch anywhere inside the sovereign lines of Ukrainian territory. They can deliver a warhead of 50 kilograms, basically 120 pounds, 115 pounds. For those of you that maybe Not too hip on the kilograms, but it's a large munition. Length, they're about 3 meters. Speed, 180 kilometers per hour. Flight height from 60 to 4,000 meters. That would be from 120 feet to 12,000 feet, and 180 kilometers per hour. They're flying at about 110 to 115 miles per hour. You may say, well, 115 miles per hour, I've shot ducks hunting that are flying, it appears, 100 miles an hour. Yeah, but remember that number there you see with the 60. These things can fly at very low altitude, making them impossible for air defense to lock onto. The Russians are actively using Iranian drones under the brand name, which they're calling Geran 2 or Geran Vtaroy, the Geran the second. Some of these parts that are inside these drones are internationally made, and that's the thing I want to share with you next. We talk about, what is the word I want to use? We talk about stopping business activity, the sanctions, ceasing to work in these nations. And I'm definitely not going to throw Intel under the bus, but here is actually a computer board out of one of the drones. Ukrainians have captured the drones, struck them down, destroyed some after they struck. Of course, they go and recover what technology they can. This is actually a motherboard from one of these Iranian drones. There's two things that the Ukrainians were drawing attention to, and number one was the design of this board itself is basically a Western design. It's not a Middle Eastern type technology with the layout of the board. I'm not a computer engineer. I'm just sharing with you what comes out of Ukrainian intelligence. Secondly, computer chips in these, unfortunately, are Intel. Not Intel as in intelligence, but Intel, the American company. That's not to throw shade on Intel. It doesn't mean they're selling their chips to Iran. Iran, of course, on the black market or wherever. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I'm not talking about Intel. I've got great friends that work at Intel. So not going to say Intel's selling chips to Iran. Please don't not misunderstand me. But we can say that Intel computer chips and processors are inside the Iranian drones. How they got there, I do not know. Finally, before we move on, just a few minutes ago, you guys probably saw this on your evening news or you've seen it come across your mobile phone. Once again, Rocket Boy shooting off rockets. That's what he does best out of North Korea. Once again, on the heading of Japan. Another air raid alarm went off in Japan. People had to go underground. This threat was specifically tied to South Korea. Here's the question I have for all of us tonight. How much more of this is Japan going to take? And I know this is, we focus on the war in Ukraine. We focus on what's happening there. But believe me, this is directly connected. Chaos is attempting or is being sown. That is the attempt of Russia. That is the attempt of North Korea. That's the attempt of Iran and other rogue nations to sow chaos in our world. And they're doing a really good job of it. Right now, we have rockets flying over Japan. So my question is, how much more of this is Japan going to take? You know, what would happen, and I do not know the answer to this, what would happen if a couple of rockets flew over American sovereign territory? What would we do? What if they flew over Great Britain? What if they flew over Finland? What if they flew over Poland? I imagine that some of these nations would jump on the defensive very quick, if not moving to the offensive. We must pay attention to this. This is a little bit too much, and it's maybe a sad thing to say, but this is pushing to too much. Now, with that said, here comes Poland. Today, negotiations began, and that is President Duda that you see there on the left. Negotiations began on joint nuclear weapon use with the United States of America, NATO. Poland, of course, is not a nuclear nation, but they are looking at finding ways that they can not become nuclear, but have access to the technology, have access to hosting the weapons on their sovereign territory. Kind of interesting. We see what Russia is doing. We see what is happening in Ukraine. We see North Korea continuing to increase their madness. And now we see Duda and Poland saying, hey, we're interested in coming up with a plan so that we can assist with the nuclear option. Folks, I know I've said this a million times, maybe not a million, but thousands, hundreds. We're that close. Let me give you that paper right there. Paper thin. We are that close from one accident and World War III. I am not a doomsdayer. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just looking at facts. And people may want to debate that, and that's fine, but it's facts. What if there was a mistake and one of North Korea's rockets actually struck Japan? What do you think would happen? Do you think Japan would do nothing? Of course not. This is how close we are. And we must pay attention. And we see that with Poland saying, hey, let us join the party. Now, here's something very interesting. Today, the border opened. I'm going to explain this to you. Today at 10:15 a.m. local time, that would be October the 5th, 10:15 a.m. local time, would have been 3:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which puts us about 18 hours ago. The border opened. You say, what border opened? Do you see the red line right there? That red line is actually the official sovereign border of Ukraine. Now, of course, that is occupied now. And to the left, you see the cities of Lysychansk and Lugansk and Donetsk and Mariupol, that right side. That red line right there, until this morning at 10:15 a.m., people coming in and out of Russia still had to clear a border with the LNR and the DNR. They had to present documents. They had to present passports. Crossing an international border. Today at 10:15 a.m., that border was now moved to the frontline borders of the LNR and DNR. People coming and going between the LNR, DNR, the stolen territories of these regions in Ukraine and Russia no longer show their passport. Russia is treating this now as their sovereign ground. This is vitally important, and we must pay attention to it. I know you're sitting there tonight and you're going, okay, so who cares and what's so important about that? What's so important about that is this. Remember the statements. If you strike our land, we'll strike you. Now, we've heard that for months and months and months. But today at 10:15 a.m., Russia moved their border. That's what you must understand. Russia moved their border today. Maybe you're here tonight and you've not done a lot of international travel. Maybe, you don't have a lot of activity in your passport. I don't know. But as one who does, let me tell you, border crossings are tough. I reported and shared with you about Zhenya and I crossing the border out of Ukraine into Poland. We were in the fast track as an NGO, and it still took 5 hours. And all of the controls and all of the checks, there is now no checks all the way up until the occupied territories where Russia is controlling. This is a big deal, but there's a big reason for that, and I'm going to get to that in just a moment. Before I show you why that border changed today, let me show you this. ZNPP, Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, is now under Russian federal control. We're going to mark down today. Maybe if you watch this every night and this is your way of keeping updated and you're a part of this community, A, thank you, but B, on your little magnetic board with your calendar on your refrigerator, go circle October the 5th. I'm going to put this out as a date that will be vitally important. There are some reasons. It has nothing to do with North Korea shooting their missiles off more. It has nothing to do with Poland saying, let's go nuclear. Why is October 5th important? Because October 5th is the day that President Putin signed into federal law in Russia many details. Yesterday, I showed you that the Duma voted that these 4 annexed regions, Lugansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson, were officially accepted into Russia. But remember, much like our system in America, you vote on things, it goes through the House and the Senate, but it's not turned into law until what happens? Remember your civics class in high school. The President of the United States takes out his pen and he signs it. Well, that happened today. It's one thing to vote and pass the Duma. It's another thing for Vladimir Putin to sign the dotted line. The first document I'm showing you here is a document that states the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is now federally controlled Russian territory. Okay, please understand the logic of this. It's so simple to understand. Russia has been controlling it for months and months. It's theirs, but they kind of stayed on the fence with it. Nothing official out of the Kremlin. But the annexation took place. The Duma ratified it. And you're going to see, in fact, let me flip you there first. Here, these are the 4 laws. Let me read this to you. Rossiyskaya Federatsiya Federalny Zakon. That's what the top 4 words say. Rossiyskaya Federalnaya Zakon. What does it mean? Russian Federation federal law. Done. The one on the left, Lugansk, is now Russia. I know it's not, but in their minds it is. On the right, circled in red, Donetsk is Russia. Third one, Kherson is Russia. Fourth one, Zaporizhzhia is Russian. Now go back to this decree. Now Russia can say that the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is ours. Why? Because it's on our land. The Duma approved it. It was voted on in a sham referendum, and President Putin has signed the dotted line. Therefore, now everything there is ours, specifically the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. All of this is happening on October the 5th. It's really interesting. You're signing all these decrees and taking all of this land. And at the same time, your army is failing. You're losing the very territory that you think is yours. They're losing territory in Donetsk, they being Russia. Ukraine is gaining their land back. They're getting ready to push into Lugansk. Zaporizhzhia is holding. I tell you the truth here. Zaporizhzhia is holding that line. Kherson, Ukraine's making a great push in the south. So Ukraine is taking, in the mind of Russia, their sovereign territory. You're understanding the chaos of this? This is madness. All the while, we're just celebrating it's our land. Russia is. Ukraine is taking it back, not meter by meter, but village by village. That is what we heard the other day. So it's very interesting, and I'm here to tell you tonight, October the 5th, 2022, going to be a major, major day in history. Now, tonight, for the rest of the program, I want to help you understand Putin. I want to help you understand Russia. I want to help you understand the Kremlin. I want to help you understand brainwashing. I want to help you understand the mentality of how these things that I've shared with you over the first 20 minutes of this program can even unfold. How can you say it's your territory and Ukraine's taking it back? How can you say Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is now ours? How can you say all of this? Because there is a madness that is happening inside the Kremlin. So I want to begin tonight, and I want to give you a little backdrop, some understanding into mentality that's been brainwashed. We'll start with this. This will help us understand Putin, Kremlin, Russia, and all the things that we're seeing that do not make sense. It doesn't make sense that you can move a border and the passport control is gone. It doesn't make sense that you can say it's our land. It doesn't make sense that you call them Nazis, and I haven't seen a Nazi yet. I was just there. You guys know. It's not logical that you can say it's our territory, and if you strike it, we're going to drop the doomsday on you. But at the same time, your army's running away. Something crazy is unfolding. To understand it, we have to understand a little bit of the mentality that's behind this machine. So let's start with this, and let me show you what brainwashing looks like.
Чтобы Россия стала членом Европейского Союза и НАТО?
Не хотела бы.
А почему?
Православный человек, и считаю, что нам с ними не по пути. Владимир Владимирович вообще сказал, я за то, чтобы от Лиссабона до Владивостока было общее мировое пространство. Для Америки это смерть. И включить мозги. Они трансгендерами, там 40 видов, уже у них там не девочка и мальчик, и не мужчина и женщина, а уже 40 видов разных полов, так сказать. Европа — это периферия на самом деле. Поэтому рвались американцы и в Крым.
Какие американцы рвались в Крым?
В Крым? Я разговаривала с людьми, приезжали, хотели сделать базу еще до 2014 года, как раз вот в 2005 году. Это вообще-то государство, у которого долг превышает их ВВП.
А почему тогда курс доллара растет?
Потому что у нас тоже сидит прослойка с 91-го года, купленных еще тогда людей, понимаете? И если этих людей убрать, просто-напросто Владимир Владимирович, он понимает, что они его, как Сталина, отравили в свое время, так его притравят. Поэтому он их не убирает. Но сейчас, скорее всего, будут ставить ракеты рядом со Штатами. Как это было в 60-е годы, чтобы они очнулись наконец-то.
Вы же православный человек, как можно рассуждать о ракетах?
Моя хорошая, вы знаете, вы неправильно о православии знаете. Христианство — это воинствующая вообще религия. Кстати говоря, вот этот раскол, который учинили, последний раскол, который на Украине учинили, православные учинили греки, американцы греки. Их там 3 миллиона, и они купили просто этого православного Варфоломея. Вот что творится-то. На самом деле православие, оно русское, оно немножко как бы не такое, как вы думаете. Сюси-муси, как у Толстого. Толстой не был православным человеком. Он был проклят церковью. Будете в гаремах загонят вас, если вы сейчас не будете защищаться от американцев.
You see, honestly, in all appearances, please, I want you to understand, I know this culture. That's a nice lady. I guarantee you, you could go over her house, she'd make you a wonderful bowl of borscht, a wonderful bowl of soup, have a nice tea for you, have a great conversation. But she's brainwashed. Absolutely brainwashed. Everything is about Vladimir Putin knows exactly what he's doing. He's looking out for the best of our nation. Oh, you don't understand orthodoxy. You do not understand Christianity. You do not understand anything. We are the right way. So there you have it. That's a little bit of an insight into her. Now, I came across and was shared an incredible man on the street piece. It's a few minutes long, but I promise you, you're going to enjoy this. Young man out about 250 miles east of Moscow in Russia, doing some man on the street. We've got great translation here, great subtitles, and once again, let this educate you on mentality. And then we're going to close out the program, and I'm going to show you Vladimir Putin's mentality. Check this one out, man on the street east of Moscow.
Нужна. С 45-го года не проводилась мобилизация, поэтому идет в военкоматах вот такая несуразная ситуация. Никто ничего не знает.
Вот как вы думаете, зачем их туда отправляют?
Куда зачем? Родину защищать.
А защищать?
Вы что еще думаете? Вы что, сторонник английской разведки, что ли, тут сведения собираете?
Нет.
Идите сами, сколько вам лет?
Ну, скоро меня тоже призовут.
Вот и все, идите с чистой совестью. Тут ерундой занимаетесь. Разбить вас надо с этой аппаратурой вместе с английской разведкой.
Все.
Бессовестнее.
Спасибо.
Иди домой. Прощайся с бабушкой, с дедушкой. Поцелуй папу, маму, иди. Я бы тоже пошел, но я же старик.
Все, спасибо большое.
Спасибо. Бестолочь. Понимаешь, если это показывать не будешь, блядь. Сволочь ты. Иди домой, чтобы сейчас...
Вот сегодня с нашего района уезжает первый автобус с ребятами. Вот что думаете по этому поводу? Ну,
Что сказать? За Родину. Я бы сказал за Сталина, но...
А вот защищаем мы от кого, как вы думаете?
Не знаю. Кого? Как?
Сегодня с нашего района уезжает первый автобус с ребятами.
И чё?
Вот что думаете?
Кто должен защищать Родину? А? Если не мужчина настоящий. Женщины с детьми пойдем, давайте.
А вот скажите, пожалуйста.
Вам Великую Отечественную войну защищали, выдержали 5 лет. А сейчас бегают, как эти псы.
Кто-то же должен защищать свою родину.
А от кого мы защищаем вообще?
От кого? Всем понятно, что это украинские нацисты под руководством заокеанского игрока. Взрастили целое поколение людей, страдающих русофобией.
Нужна, я считаю, давно начать надо было. С 2014 года уже частичная мобилизация. Что это 80 сколько времени?
Угу. Вот, отправляют их с кем воевать, как думаете?
Воевать? Нацистами, фашистами. С кем? Не народом же, украинским.
Ой, Родину надо защищать. Россия у нас одна, понимаете? Одна Россия. Ну что теперь сделаешь? Мы же не хотим, чтобы эти шакалы из океана. От них же все пошло, все от них. Вот. Мы же не хотим, чтобы они уничтожили нашу страну, сравняли с землей, а ресурсами нашими воспользовались. Вот. И поэтому, конечно, тут на Путина не надо всех собак вешать. Вешать надо на сатанистов из Вашингтона. Все от них пришло, все от них.
Все, спасибо большое. А вам вот не кажется, что вот сзади вот идет война? Вот посмотрите назад. Нет ли война, которой надо бороться нам, как мне кажется?
Да все нормально было. И сейчас нормально. Почему не нормально? Асфальт вон везде.
Ну, асфальт.
А чего? Серьезно, раньше не было тут ничего. Никакого асфальта не было. Было, магазин был большой. Все хорошо было.
Они едут защищать нашу страну, нашу родину. Так что будем поддерживать их, молиться за них.
А защищать от кого?
А? Ну как, родину мы все равно защищаем все время. Вот. Военные же служат, наши мужчины все служат. Так что я согласна с тем, что поехали. Конечно, жалко. Вот. Хотелось бы и тут, чтобы они были с семьей и работали. Но раз надо, значит надо.
Спасибо.
Всего доброго. Хорошего дня.
Вам тоже.
Что думать? Жить надо. Присягу все принимали. Вот. Пора. Родина зовет.
Как вы думаете вообще, зачем их туда отправляют?
Ну, все не перебирать, наверное. Родину защищать.
Ну, от кого?
От кого? От врагов, наверное. Ты как сам думаешь?
Сказать не надо. Пусть защищают нашу родину.
Защищают родину от кого?
От украинских нацистов.
Спасибо. Вы знаете вообще, зачем их туда отправляют?
Знаю. На войну.
Да, на войну с кем?
Это с этим, как его, с украинцами. Ну, как его, там это, с американцами еще. Там всяких же национальностей полно. Наехал.
Угу. То есть вы считаете, что мобилизация нужна, да?
Да, обязательно. Надо этот, Киев захватить тоже, полностью.
Угу.
Всю Украину, чтобы наша была. Не Украина, а Россия. Все?
Все, спасибо.
I really hope that a lot of this translation is able to help you understand and to have a little bit of insight into a language that without the translation, you couldn't understand. You couldn't get a peek into how people think. Now, with that said, we're now going to move to the final part of the program tonight, and that would be Vladimir Putin. Now, today, Vladimir Putin came out and made a statement. In fact, I'll tell you this. Today, initially, early this morning, Vladimir Putin was scheduled to give a national speech. But this morning, he canceled it. I do not know if it will happen tomorrow. I do not know if it will happen in 2 days. I do not know if it will ever happen. I'm sure it will. But today, he was scheduled. Nobody knows what that was to be about, what was to be announced, what was to be stated. With that said, he was active today in some different forums, in some different listening forums there in Moscow, and he was giving some opinions on different topics. One of them, of course, being the Nazism in Ukraine. And you will now get some understanding into the mentality of Vladimir Putin. And not only Vladimir Putin, but why many people under his control, and I say that very clearly, under his control, say the things that they say. But before I show you that, we have to go back 2 weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, when the mobilization was taking place, the initiation of it, and I was in Ukraine. This was a statement that Vladimir Putin gave in response to what was happening in the war. Very direct statement about the West, very direct statement about NATO, very direct statement about the war. I did not share that with you because I was saving it for a time. It wasn't really time specific because we know what's going on. But today in this program, trying to understand how can all of this really be happening, we have to understand not only people's mentality, but Putin's mentality, the Kremlin's mentality. So before I show you what he said today, let's go back in time a couple of weeks and lay the groundwork with this statement first.
В своей агрессивной антироссийской политике Запад перешел всякую грань. Мы постоянно слышим угрозы в адрес нашей страны, нашего народа. Некоторые безответственные политики на Западе не только говорят о планах по организации поставок в Украине дальнобойных наступательных вооружений, систем, которые позволят наносить удары по Крыму, другим регионам России. Такие террористические удары, в том числе и с использованием западного оружия, уже наносятся по приграничным населенным пунктам Белгородской и Курской областей. НАТО осуществляет разведку по всему югу России. В Вашингтоне, Лондоне, Брюсселе прямо подталкивают Киев к переносу военных действий на нашу территорию. Уже не таясь, говорят о том, что Россия должна быть всеми средствами разгромлена на поле боя, с последующим лишением политического, экономического, культурного, вообще всякого суверенитета, с полным разграблением нашей страны. В ход пошел и ядерный шантаж. Речь идет не только о поощряемых Западом обстрелах Запорожской атомной электростанции, что грозит атомной катастрофой, но и о высказываниях некоторых высокопоставленных представителей ведущих государств НАТО о возможности и допустимости применения против России оружия массового поражения, ядерного оружия. Тем, кто позволяет себе такие заявления в отношении России, хочу напомнить, что наша страна также располагает различными средствами поражения, а по отдельным компонентам и более современными, чем у стран НАТО. И при угрозе территориальной целостности нашей страны для защиты России и нашего народа мы, безусловно, используем все имеющиеся в нашем распоряжении средства. Это не блеф.
Very, very direct statement there by Vladimir Putin. Translated for you. You can read the English. You can read the subtitles. You know, you're not relying on some journalist to write it down on what he said. You're watching it yourself. The translation is really, really good. And it's accurate. Now, with that said, finally, that brings us to the last piece of the update tonight. What did Vladimir Putin say today? After all of the information that you've been watching and reading and gaining, and we've come to this point here on October the 5th, what did Vladimir Putin say today? Here it is.
Я частенько дискутирую со своими коллегами, в том числе европейскими, которые мне говорят, ну что там вот, ну есть там элементы неонацизма. Ну а что, у нас нет, что ли? И у вас есть в России тоже какие-то неонацисты. И у нас в европейских странах. Каких уродов только нет. Каких придурков только нет. Каких идиотов и даже преступников только нет. Ну и что теперь? Ведь разница заключается в том, что да, везде, наверное, это есть. Это такое семя очень, очень ядовитое, неонацизм. И вообще эти неонацистские идеи возвеличивания себя, унижения других народов, стремление к их уничтожению. Да, это во всем мире, наверное, это есть. Но я не знаю ни одной страны, кроме сегодняшней Украины, где их ставят в разряд национальных героев. Да, и в Париже это есть, и, наверное, в Москве какие-то неонацисты там где-то прячут. Но мы их преследуем, мы с этим боремся. А в случае с Украиной наоборот. Их возвеличивают, поднимают на пьедестал. Им позволяют проводить многотысячные факельные шествия в центре крупнейших городов. Вот что поражает и что вызывает отторжение внутреннее. Не может не вызывать у нормальных людей.
So, my friends, there you have it. Day number 224. You now have a much clearer understanding of not only what's been happening in and around Ukraine today, but helping us all understand Vladimir Putin, understand why he can say that power plant's ours, that land's ours, we're moving the border. Something's really off base here. And I believe October 5th is going to be a very important day as we go forward with all of these documents now signed by Vladimir Putin. We'll see. We'll keep you updated. We look forward to seeing you in 23 hours. Once again, thank you very much for all of your support, all of your care, working very hard on the website, working very hard on getting things updated so we even get more streamlined. Peace to you tonight. Peace to Ukraine. We'll see you tomorrow.